Welcome to Remembering the Forgotten, a space where leaders think out loud without polish or performance. No scripts, no performance, just two people thinking out loud. These conversations aren't about delivering insight, they are about thinking together in real time. Because there are moments where you can feel that the answer is already there, but you can't quite reach it. And then something shifts, and suddenly it's simple. Not new, just clear. That's this space. Because what if nothing important about you was ever lost? There comes a moment in many lives when success quietly stops feeling like freedom. Not because we failed, not because we've chosen the wrong path, but because the very identity that once allowed us to build a meaningful life continues running long after it has finished its job. Today, I'm joined by Golen. Lauren has spent years working with founders and leaders who, from the outside, appear to have everything under control. The business is growing, the decisions are being made, the responsibilities continue to be carried. Yet, underneath all of it, something feels increasingly unfamiliar. Not because they've become someone else, but because they are still living through an operating system they no longer need. Our conversation explores what happens when high performers begin to recognize the difference between who they truly are and the patterns that once helped them survive. We talk about leadership, identity, embodiment, the intelligence of the body, and why awareness alone rarely changes the deeper architecture from which we live. Quite controversial today. And perhaps beneath all of it sits an even quieter realization. Freedom doesn't arrive when we become someone new. It arrives when we no longer mistake the strategies that protected us for the person we've always been. That is where today's conversation begins. With that, welcome Lauren to the show.
Thank you, Marcus. I'm excited to be here.
It's really good to have you here. So before we begin, where can you just be yourself, untouched by expectation or performance?
Mm. I mean, the first thing I think of is being out in nature.
Mhm.
Just connecting with nature. I'm imagining taking a walk in an area right by me in Valley Forge Park, and it's very vast. There's a lot of space and a lot of smells and animals and birds. And I never want to put my like AirPods in when I'm walking out there because I simply just want to connect to what I can hear. Um, and not even just, the birds chirping, but other messages that come through, in that space. So I'm not thinking about, I'm not even thinking about myself when I'm walking,
Mhm.
so it's like all that kind of disappears. And, obviously there's no performance in that space either. Yeah. So
So
that's the
thank
first
you.
thing that came to mind.
So especially with you, I would like to elaborate a question. Why the heck is it that we need to go into nature, being by ourselves in order to be ourselves?
Yeah.
You see how
Um,
paradox that is?
yeah, it's
It's like
silly,
we've
right?
made to speak with birds. No,
I
we are
know.
made to be
I
with
know.
human beings
Right.
where we can just be ourselves.
Yep. You know, the thing that comes to mind is like, I think that we sometimes go looking for experiences in order to feel something.
That's
Um,
fascinating. Tell me more.
and it could be sometimes like, you know, a feeling of wanting to connect. It could just be something simple. Right. And it's like, again, it goes back to your question because it's like, okay, but if I just spent the whole day on Zoom connecting
Mhm,
with people,
mhm,
then why am I feeling the need to go connect in this other way when I
mhm,
go out into nature? So
mhm.
what's missing in my own being, my way of being, if that is something that I feel missing, that I need to go get out on a walk in nature?
What would you say it could be?
Hmm.
What would you say it could be? Because I believe we are literally talking about something where an entire generation suffers very badly. They meet each other on Zoom, they meet each other in person, but they don't really meet.
Right.
So let's say here for a second,
Yeah.
what would you say it could actually be that's missing?
Intimacy. Intimacy.
Interesting.
So if I even start a call off with someone and I say, "How are you?" Right? Because we all say
Hmm.
that. And
Hmm.
we're already programmed so much with that
Hmm.
question and answer sequence that it isn't even something that I'm connected to that I'm asking and the other person is connected to that they're saying.
Hmm.
So it's up to me then to be, when I come to a call, to be connected, right? To make an effort to be present enough where I could say something different, where I could, or if I do start off the call saying, "How are you?" and I even let that sequence happen, that I could say, "But how are you really?" Or I could
Hmm.
say, I could be the one that starts the opening and say something out of the ordinary, right? Like,
Hmm.
actually, today, I don't, I woke up and it was more of an effort for me to get my feet on the floor,
Hmm.
and that doesn't have to be like something's wrong. Like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, my whole day now. But for me to just share that with you, to say, today was more of an effort, for me to say, it's really important for me. It actually was. um,
That's why we're here. You know
just to
what's
share that.
beautiful? You said something really interesting. Let's just give you some time to come to yourself in a moment. You said something beautiful. You said to be present and to be presence. You know what's interesting, Lauren? I actually believe we do not even think what we should say in such a moment. If we show up as presence, that's ultimate. But if we show up present,
Mm-hmm.
do you remember the poem by Marianne Williamson, where it ended, where it says, "Look, if I give myself, I actually give permission to the other person to just be themselves." So I don't think it takes more than presence or being
Mm-hmm.
present, which means I am myself, right?
Right. Right.
And people often say, "But Marcus, what if I don't have the right words?"
Mm-hmm.
I say, "Congratulations," because it's not about the words, it's about how you show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I believe this is what kind of throws off a few people when they get on calls with me, especially when they, had exercised and prepared their spiel, because, spiel with me is not so good. And at the same time, it puts them into a special calm because they realize, gosh, I can't just be me.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe this is something you and I have in common. I don't think it's so much about to think, okay, what should I say? It's literally you showing up on a call, and then your presence
Mm-hmm.
puts the other person in a safe space where, and that might be surprising for many people who listen or view this show, actually, there is no words needed.
Yep.
Like sometimes it's just quiet,
Mm-hmm.
just space.
I love
So,
that.
so crazy enough, the thing that people fear the most, Lauren, is the one that people crave the most.
Mm-hmm.
And when they meet it, they say,
Yeah.
I can finally breathe.
Mm-hmm. It's a relief.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love
Exactly.
that. Yeah, and while you were talking, it was making me think about like being willing to be present so that the presence, right, of God, of the divine, of like what is if this call was already supposed to happen, right? This call's
Mm-hmm.
already written in the stars or however you see it,
Mm-hmm.
then I get to show up at the call really, really with that understanding in my heart. Because if I come to the call with a script, then I'm trying to control and change something that already has a destination, already has a purpose. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like really letting go of all of that. Being
Mm-hmm.
present, it really requires letting go of that control, of
Mm-hmm.
that um and I think that really speaks into like so much of what this conversation is around today because if I'm leading my business, if I'm leading my clients and I'm always have an agenda, right? I always have this like pushing and controlling, then first of all, that's not fun, for
Mm-hmm.
me or the other people. And second off, it's like the work, the purpose, the calling never gets to come into its fullest self-expression and truest self-expression. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where the I believe the suffering starts to happen for people. Like, well, why am I doing this and I have this feeling of unfulfillment, you know?
Disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
We are probably the most connected society ever, Lauren.
Right.
But I believe we are the loneliest and the most self abandoned generation ever. And we're not going to speak about the generation that comes next, just our own generation. That itself is absolutely craziness,
Mm-hmm.
really. I'm not sure whether I shared that with you, but I had 5 people in my Rolodex, and the number 4 I reached out to and I said, look, please connect me with people who you believe would vibe with me and whom I would vibe with and whom you trust. And he's a dear friend in the meantime. So he looked at me, went silent, and suddenly said, Marcus, but what about if that person doesn't trust me? That's when I understood. We have a problem in our society. You know how many people trust other people, but there is no reciprocity?
Mm,
So I believe if somebody has the ability, and I almost go into the thing for a moment, vulnerability is actually interesting. Did you realize that vulnerability always goes into something negative? I'm sharing something that bothers me. I'm sharing something I'm struggling with. What if actually vulnerability is showing up as how I really feel?
yeah.
Because to be honest, if somebody wants me to be vulnerable, don't come on a call with me. Literally
Right.
not. Because
Right.
most of the times I am really doing well. And now imagine you started crying. I'm a huge empath, like so many people are, right? And now I start crying as well. That wouldn't help you, right?
Right.
That wouldn't be so nice.
Right.
So what if actually being present, and presence means bringing the light into a cold, bringing lightness into a cold,
Mm-hmm.
bringing liberation into a cold.
Mm.
I was on a call recently. I almost cried because there was so much vulnerability. And I said, honestly, I cannot deal with this pseudo vulnerability, which means I have to open the Pandora's box in order to be seen as vulnerable, because I don't think it leads anywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm the first one who cries with somebody when it's really the time.
Yeah.
So I told
Yeah,
you
that's
before we
so,
started, I have
yeah.
no
I
clue
mean,
where we go.
yeah, no, it's interesting because it's like we're talking about real vulnerability. And then what I heard you just
Yes.
talk about now is like this contrived version of like, well, now we're trying to be vulnerable. And
Yes. Yes, there was literally that lady who said, you know what? I suddenly realized that being vulnerable, in the end, it led to 4 new clients out of a group of 20.
Mm,
And I thought, gosh, I don't think that's vulnerable. Vulnerable is showing up present, which, as you beautifully put, gets us into presence. And as you can imagine, there are probably as many people who do believe in a God and do not believe in a God who listen and
hmm.
watch this show.
Right.
And so for those, I always say, you know what? What if the remembering the forgotten? And I rarely share that. But the reason why I chose the title is because this show usually connects the person who is my guest with a part that they have forgotten about,
Hmm.
the reconnection.
Hmm.
So, what if it's actually not God or an entity or a being, but it's actually us who shows up?
Hmm.
Can you feel the difference?
Yeah.
I believe I can believe in God and at the same time say, you know what? The one who really shows up is me.
Hmm.
Because I do feel that we are the greatest gifts for each other.
Hmm.
And I believe when that lands, then it's no question anymore. How can I make the other person trust me?
Hmm.
Because why do you think, this is actually a little quiz, why do you think it is that people do not trust each other? Go a little bit deeper than you would go with your answer.
I mean, the two things that come to mind are one, they will oftentimes feel something in the other person that triggers them, like reminds
Mm,
them of something old,
mhm,
or they can see something of themselves in the other person, whether it's,
mm,
pride or inauthenticity or phoniness or someone holding back in some sort of way. And so and so then I'm spending more time thinking about what I think about you
mhm,
versus again going back to being present, right?
mhm,
Being just in the conversation in a pure way.
mhm,
And yeah, that leads me to like think about, what you just said because whether I know it or not, from someone that's done a lot of work in their life, I still carried and carry, because maybe there's still remnants there, of, right, a filter that I lived through for a long time, right? So it's like
mhm,
you learn something at a young age, 4 years
mhm,
old, something happens, and then all of a sudden, I didn't feel the world was safe anymore. And anyone who's done any sort of work, right, knows this context. And it's important to know because it's important to know like the genesis of your identity, because that identity will just like hold on for dear life,
mhm,
even once you recognize it, because there's layers of it. And it's there protecting you for a certain reason. And it did. It protected me for a long time as a child.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if I keep bringing that into everything, and I think I always have to protect myself, I always have to perform, I have to come on this call and look a certain way,
Mhm.
then you're even if you're not conscious of it, we get off the call, there's a remnant for you of like, I don't, there probably would be a remnant for you. I don't totally trust Lauren
Mhm.
because of that holding back. Right. Because we don't have to not trust someone because right. You might say, I don't trust that person. And it's not because they stole from you or they did something bad, but
Mhm.
there's just something that feels off. And it could just be like, that's why I gave that example. It could be because somebody came and you're like the whole time they were performing on the call. That for me is something that stands out a lot with people. So I'm always looking at myself. Where am I performing? Where am I
Mhm.
showing up and trying to pretend? I even sometimes will find myself rehearsing for something, right? Like I'm going to dinner on Thursday night with someone and I was feeling myself rehearsing for that yesterday. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing right now?
Mhm.
Right. So I'm aware of that.
To be
And I
socially
started,
acceptable, huh?
and I started kind of doing my own self coaching on it. Like,
Mhm.
what's
Mhm.
underneath that? Like, what are you
Mhm.
afraid of?
Mhm.
And maybe
Isn't that fascinating?
it's so fascinating,
Mhm.
So I don't know. I just kind of went in like a little circle with all of that, but it went back
Mm.
to like, why do we not trust each other?
So you used the term, which if you hear it coming back from me, it will hit you. It's safety. It's safety.
Yeah.
If I feel safe, I trust you. So simple.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the hardest thing. And at the same time, what is beautiful, if you trust yourself, then you will feel safe wherever you are, with whomever you are, or you will distance yourself and
Yeah.
leave.
Yep.
Like this is actually what I started doing. If I go on calls, as you know, I usually schedule mine for 30 minutes. I'm absolutely able to say after 5 or 10 minutes, you know what? It was really nice meeting you. I don't feel it. And I don't want to waste your time nor my time. It was nice meeting you. But I really prefer to end this call now and to say farewell,
Yeah.
which I think is extremely important. But it's the safety aspect which every single person is craving today. I want to be safe. And then I want to be liked. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be accepted.
Yeah.
I want to be respected. I
Yeah.
want to be loved. And then my wife would say, for whom I am,
Mm-hmm.
not for whom other people want me to be. I assume you had a pretty similar upbringing like my wife did. Very young age, you knew how to behave as a woman, as a girl,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Just had this conversation with my wife this afternoon, and I just realized it is incredible how much damage is being done to young girls,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But it's all about being safe. This is why I love this show, because everyone who's winning can get to that place where they say, you know what? I now feel there was a place where I felt safe. That's what
Yep.
it's all about, remembering the forgotten,
Yep.
because it is in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Literally is.
Yeah. And going back to those places like you were just talking about with your wife, and I know I can relate to that too. And going back to those places and remembering like what are the pieces that you're not being now? right? Like for me, as an example, as for me, for so long, because I learned to be outgoing. I learned to get
Hmm.
up in front of people and speak. I learned to be bold. I learned, right? But also, there were pieces along the way where I lost that part of me that also really loved to be quiet, that also loved to, um, even get better, and I'm doing this now, get better while I'm in leadership roles to enroll other people into leadership so that when I'm in a room with people, I could still be the one that is, let's say, the CEO, but I could still sit there and have other people leading a meeting and stepping into things that they want to do. And I can sit and go back to listening more and observing and um, being good at creating community, and like you said before, holding space for other people to feel seen and gotten and heard, and and because even though those things are natural, sometimes it's like we have to practice those things that used to be natural for us, right? So it's like, because someone will say, well, what's wrong with you, Lauren? Why are you being so quiet? And it's like, because I actually am. Like, I enjoy just sitting and being. I don't have to be the center of attention. I don't have to perform anything right now. And I can be just as connected to all the people in the room, but in a completely different way. And they can get to know me on a deeper level, like you started this call, by even not saying that many words at all. I remember years ago someone saying, breaking down the word into, intimacy, into me, you see, into me,
Mm,
I see.
that's
And I loved
beautiful.
that. Yeah, because it's like just even those staring exercises, if you've ever done that where you sit across. I've done a lot of that like in yoga and leadership trainings and things like that. And it's always the most powerful exercise, always the most confronting for me. Because I can remember when I started losing the ability. No, that's not true. Let me make sure I'm responsible with the way I'm saying this. I can remember a time in my life at a very young age where I started looking down when people talk to
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
And I had, and I had to like relearn how to look at people in the eye. And that lasted for a really long time. It was hard for me. And so,
Think about
yeah.
why.
Hmm.
Think about why for a moment. Let's talk about that because that is so common.
Yeah.
Most people cannot look into your eyes when you speak with them.
Hmm.
So let's talk for a moment. Why do you think that is?
Oh, for me, it was absolutely like covering up sadness, covering up people. When people look at each other, really look at each other, they can see, you can see who somebody is or what they're experiencing. You can see sadness, you can see joy, you can see vulnerability. You can't hide how your parts of your being. Um, I really do feel the eyes are the window to the soul. And um, it can
It's a
just be,
beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful concept. Mm.
Mm-hmm. So,
So, what would you say is beneath that?
beneath what?
What you just said.
What is beneath that? I think it's, that's it. It's like going back to a place where we really recognize our responsibility to support one another, to support another person to heal their soul.
You think that's possible?
I do. I do, for sure. Because if I really have an understanding of what that even means for me to begin healing my soul, then I just want that for other people. And it goes back to what we're talking about. It's like, how do I become someone who can hold space? Now that we've been talking about that, is what keeps coming through is like, it's
Mhm.
really the like holding space, right? So even if I were to get up and I were to give some sort of awkward speech and the whole time my hands were shaking, but I knew that like I was really practicing being me. I was like, I stretched myself to, say things and in front of people, let them see my heart. And there was even one person in that room that held space for that to happen and could see me being nervous and could see me, and maybe even come up to me and say, take my hand and or hug me and just say like, I see you, you know. I
And
think
you see where it leads again?
yeah.
Safety.
Yep.
Safety. If a person cannot look into someone else's eyes, people often say they have something to hide.
Yeah.
They have fear to hide.
Oh
They
yeah.
have shame to hide.
Yep.
That's why I'm saying being present is beautiful. And all those coaches and consultants, they're present. That's the difference to presence.
Yeah.
But if someone is presence and gives presence to somebody else, that's when the other person feels safe. And I believe that's what's lacking today. Because when I understood that, my dear friend Sean said to me, Marcus, but what if the other person doesn't trust me? And I realized, gosh, we are really screwed as a nation.
Yeah.
We are. But it takes so little. But you said it beautifully. In the end, it comes down to us doing the work.
Yeah.
Now I challenge you a little bit. What if it's actually not us even helping somebody else heal, but just by giving safety,
Hmm.
that person can actually heal themselves like this?
Yeah.
Because that's all it takes. All those methodologies and programs and what's out there.
I love that.
Sometimes I honestly believe that coaching and consulting actually misleads and misguides people.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes them somewhere.
Absolutely.
And I know how you left your own practice and everything. And I really believe this is a platform where I can speak out my truth and where we can discuss truth. Because, I didn't build this platform to be loved or to be liked. No, not at all. I'm a contrarian and I will stay a contrarian until my last breath.
Yes.
No, because what if the hardest thing to do is actually be presence, which then gives the other person the possibility to feel safe
Yeah.
and to be seen.
Absolutely. I 100% believe that's possible. And I'm getting an image right now of like, imagine just a room full of people just sitting, right? And if you listen and if you're connected to like the word resonate, like resonance is coming to mind, that you could walk around the room, a silent room, no one's going to be talking to each other, and you could find the place to sit that feels the safest for you just by
Mhm,
feeling your way
mhm,
through the room.
mhm, mhm,
And and then sit down next to this person, eventually it'll be a group of people. And yeah, those people could sit together, not say anything to each other and experience a healing for
mhm.
sure. For sure. Because you know
I
that
can
feeling,
imagine.
right? As a
Mhm.
child, like how you
Yeah,
would sit down next to a specific person.
yeah. Mhm,
And I know for me, like I can think of a person that I used to always want to sit on her lap
Mhm.
And it just felt like a safe place to be.
Mhm.
And I knew there was like something that I was supposed to learn from her just by being near her. The resonance of, because I didn't understand everything she was saying when I was that age. But yeah. And that's the inner connection that we get to return to, remember,
Mhm.
is and that's like what my work is really about, is remembering that part. And sometimes we have to take off some things that we've learned, performed, strived, gone after, so that we can get back to like, no, you already know, right? And sometimes that's why it means there may be some things that you get to let go of or close, or you never know, to return. And other times it's just that you can return to that place and you can bring that into where you are now.
Interesting. Sometimes people ask me, why are you not a consultant anymore or a coach? So why do you use this fancy Italian family, the mafia term consigliere? I say, because as a consigliere, all I provide my clients is that safe space where they can learn to trust what they actually already know.
Yep.
A consultant brings methodologies, tools, what else? Coaching as well, right? But as a consigliere, I can literally just be. And this is why a client of mine said, well, no, Marcus, from now on, I'll actually get you in all my calls. And you're just there. You don't say a word. And in the end, I might ask you for a summary, and that's it. I said, I knew why, but I asked him why. And he said, because your presence calms the entire room, gives not only me, himself, the freedom to think, to express himself without the distortion and the interference that's constantly fighting for attention, right? But then he said, you know what? It will have the exact same impact on everyone else in the room. That's the depth. So if you think about that, this might attract fewer clients, but it will attract the right ones.
Mm,
And I can tell you one thing, Lauren, you will never have to think about finances, because I stepped out of the coaching and consulting number game a long time ago. Long time ago. Because think about, if you are able to bring presence into a room and the interference and the disturbance suddenly gets removed
yeah.
and there comes clarity, what bigger things could you bring to the table? Nothing.
Nothing.
It's safety. It all comes down to safety. For a
Yeah.
long time, I thought it's clarity. Yes, clarity is beautiful, but clarity alone is not enough. It's safety.
Wow.
That's why I was looking forward to our conversation today, because I knew, gosh, with you, we will go very deep. Yeah, because there is no competing methodology. Because sometimes I meet coaches and consultants, and I suddenly realize, gosh, now they become competitors of me in this conversation because it goes so contra what they believe. And I sometimes, one to one say, what if you're actually leaving this call questioning your entire existence?
Mm,
Can you imagine how this question freaks people out?
yep.
Because, gosh, you studied for so long, you had hundreds of hours of coaching,
Yeah.
development. Because I literally admired when you said, Marcus, I walked away from everything.
Yeah.
Because when we met, I literally thought that you were, one of those meditation gurus with yoga and everything. And I realized, no, she's not. She's not. I really loved when you said to me, sometimes I don't even I don't even meditate. I just sit down. I just breathe. I'm just quiet, just calm. And if you think about what yoga really is, it's union.
Yeah.
It's union. It's not what you see in New York, yoga, right?
Right, right.
The busy women rushing there,
Right.
rushing out again.
Yeah.
And then they had like half an hour or an hour of yoga. But I believe it all comes down to safety.
I love that. Yep.
It's
I
so
love that.
simple,
It
so
is.
simple.
It is. And that's
And
what
you
it
know,
should.
you brought the answer to this conversation. You probably realized it.
Hmm.
When you gave it some thought, you suddenly landed at safety.
Wow.
Mhm. It wasn't me, it was you.
Wow. Amazing. And it should feel like that, right? For just what you just shared about where you are with your practice and what you do for your clients. And that's part of the process of like taking off the performance is that you
Yeah,
realize like no, it's not all these things that you have to write down on a piece of paper that you're
yeah.
doing for other people.
Mhm,
It's simply the fact of showing up, being present, creating a
mhm,
safe space, and then the work is just going to happen.
mhm,
It's inevitable.
mhm, mhm. Because, you know, you mentioned that sweet thing that you rehearsed for the dinner last night, right?
Rehearsing, I was rehearsing for Thursday night's dinner.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So,
So
without saying where I'm going, and we'll keep it this way, I am a member of a WhatsApp chat. Everyone is introducing themselves to the group. You would not believe how many times introductions go like this. Hi, I'm Dr. Marcus. And I think, no, you're not. No. And I will never call you Dr. Marcus when we meet.
right.
So, you know, it's the first time in my life, by the way. And you remember when I told you when we met for the first time, it was literally the first call after I let go of service and protection detail.
Yeah.
It's the first time, Lauren, that I am traveling somewhere and all I'll be is, hi, I am Marcus.
Wow.
Period.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm
You
so
sense it,
excited
right?
for you. It's that's incredible.
And that's what people need.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lauren. And then they wait for the spiel. No, there's no spiel. Because what's so beautiful, what I realized is, hi, I am. And then I make a little pause, Marcus. And in this I am, it's almost like a little mustard seed
Mm,
where the entirety of my existence is encompassed.
mm-hmm.
And Marcus, I just add so somebody else has something to relate to. But that's where the safety aspect comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I am. Thus, you are allowed to be as well. So,
Wow. And I do one more thing I do think is so interesting too is that we didn't talk all those weeks, right? We connected when we did, which was
yes,
after you had let go of that uh,
literally hours. Mhm.
long-time identity. So,
Yeah, 45 years.
wow.
Yeah, I'm 54 years old today. So 9.5
Oh,
years.
it's your
Yeah.
birthday?
No, no, it's not my birthday,
Oh,
but,
okay.
but that's how old I am.
Wow.
Yeah,
Incredible.
yeah, yeah.
I'm excited
Yeah,
for you.
because thank you. When this happened, I literally wondered, like, I don't have reference points.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't. I don't have reference points. I was 9.5 when that happened. And now it's 45 years later. So all I knew know is the power of, hi, I'm Marcus, and I smile.
I love this.
And the rest, we'll find out.
Yes, you will.
We will find out.
Yes, you will. Everything's a new experience,
Yeah,
right? Now,
absolutely.
even more. I
Literally
mean, it always is, but now
everything.
it's even,
Everything.
even more so.
Yeah,
Wow. What a
literally
gift.
everything. Yeah.
What a gift this conversation has been. Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, which brings me soon to the end. But there are two questions I have for you left, especially the vulnerability we're just right now, right? If you picture people out there at the moment, and if someone feels overwhelmed right now, which is so easy in today's time, what would you want them to return to?
Being. I was going to say nothing, but it's, just being.
Mhm.
And there's
Beautiful.
a word in Sanskrit. It's I hope I get it right. It's I want to say it's a parigraha. The word means non-grasping
Mm.
because, the minute I'm simply being, the
Right.
next thing that happens is there's a grasping
Mhm.
for something to put on it, right? Well, now I'm sitting on the sand just being. Now I have to reach for a shell, and I have to start making a sandcastle, and right,
Mhm.
all the
Mhm.
things.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's a non-grasping, and it's a practice. It's a practice
Mhm.
because we can notice that nothing's wrong with that, right? It's okay to
Mhm.
want to grasp. It's okay to feel like you want to put something on it because the discomfort or the movement is looking for a way to cover up, I think,
Mhm.
naturally. So it's like just practicing just being.
Beautiful. Which brings me to the final question. So before we go, what are you taking away from this conversation?
Oh boy, I know. What I am taking away from this conversation is like who I am for people. And I don't have to pretend anymore that there's like, okay, what is my framework and what is my, right, the ongoing conversation that I've been in my whole lifetime, that it will come up because right, it
Mhm.
happens.
Mhm.
And it's a lie. It's a thing I pretend so that I don't just fully step into the the calling, which sounds so silly, right? Because it's like, oh no, I want so badly to like step into my calling and finally be doing it. So so I would say I'm taking away that I already know. It's already there. It's all there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this conversation, Lauren.
Thank you, Marcus.
This was Remembering the Forgotten. As you move on, notice what may have been quietly remembered. Ask yourself for a moment, what if the thing holding us back is not a lack of capability, but a system that has been carrying too much for too long? And if that is true, what if nothing important about you was ever lost? There are moments where you can feel the answer is already there, but you can't quite reach it. And then something shifts, and suddenly it's simple. No force, no second guessing, no internal negotiation, just a clear sense of what's next. and the capacity to move. If something shifted, let it stay. A few quiet pointers are waiting below.